Okay, now you can start.
Hi, all of you all. I think we are in the process of starting the topic again of introduction to yoga. And we are trying to understand here in today's discussion, like what is yoga? What is the basis of yoga? But if you try to see, when you try to understand the yoga, the nature of what yoga means and what is the connection it is to a human being. So if you take a human being by nature, every human being naturally has the tendency or the urge to have something which is calling the seeking capacity. He always tries to seek something. He starts to search something. So from the infant, from the childhood, or even from the womb, what happens is that that searchingness, the seekingness, exploringness is there. So that seekingness leads into something which we can call it as the next step is something which leads into experiencing something. And from the experience, he just wants to explore certain aspects. So that experiencing capacity, experimenting capacity, that exploring capacity of the human nature is what the yoga harnesses it. And in which direction it harnesses is what is important. So according to the Eastern system, whenever they went into seeking of certain aspects, and today we are talking of something about two systems. That is, one is inward journey about the human being going towards within himself, trying to explore his capacity. At the same time, he also tries to support others' capacities. So here, when it comes into the yoga system, there are certain things which is interconnected. So when we say of yoga, there is medicine in it, there is alchemy in it, the part of certain aspects of yoga is it, and the philosophy is there. When all these four systems are combined only, it is considered as a complete structure of knowledge system. And here, in every aspect of the yoga, there is a heavy influence of yoga, Ayurveda, and the Siddha medical system. So if you take one, the philosophical aspect, and on the other side, if you take the human being, if you take each of us, those who are, how do you picturize yourself? If there is something, a problem has taken place in your system, in your human body, there's a problem in the liver, or there's some problem in the heart region, there's a problem in the lung region. We are aware about the modern civilization, the modern technology, which says if there's some problem in the system, like how you change the parts in a vehicle or in a computer system, how you can change parts. Similarly, even in the human body, you can change parts. Yes, to a certain extent, you can change the parts, but human being is a person who has come from a single cell, which we call it as a zygote in science. The zygote, what happens, does its proliferations and moves into so many thousands and thousands of cells. Technically, it's about 2.5 trillion cells. So when there is a problem in the heart, when there is a problem in the mind, when there is a problem in any specific part of a specific region or in a system, it affects the totality of an individual. So even if a person is disturbed by a small incident, it affects that individual from the top of the head to the tip of the toes. Sometimes you may find an uncomfortableness or unease in a specific region. For some time, for some people, they may get a headache or a migraine. Sometimes we try to suppress it, but it is only a symptom. It is an indicator to show that the whole body is in a stage of alarm. So here, the human being is basically considered as a non-linear, unpredictable human being, and he is not a linear law of determination predictability. That is the reason why in the ancient system of codified medical system, when we say codified medical system, it means the structured medical system from the inception, which never ever changed or never it altered, saying that one system is not applicable to the human system. So from the inception, the yoga, the siddha, the ayurveda, these three important components was very structured and well codified. And when they started, they considered as every human being as one entity and not a person of collection of organs. So here we need to have that clear understanding when it comes into the aspect of yoga. So here, when we are talking about the yoga, the word yoga derives from a very important word called yuj. And the word yuj has different meanings according to its different levels. So one, it speaks about union. Second, it talks about the concentration. The third, it talks about control. So when we talk about the union, the word yoga gives an explanation, a detailed explanation about from where the soul arises, from where the soul comes from, and what is the duty of the soul, and from where it goes back to its place of origin. It talks about that philosophy, one school. At the same time, that is the highest level, which talks completely about soul management or the consciousness management. At the same time, it also talks about concentration. That is, every human being's concentration capacities are spoken in detail. At the same time, it also speaks about the control, because if you take a human being, there are various factors which influence for the decaying of an individual, for the demotivation of the individual, weakening of the senses, weakening of the personality. So there is a need for the human mind and the human being to have a control system to have a great progress in his life or career. So here in today's session, we are just going to talk something which about the controlling factors, the influencing factors, the protecting factors, and the need for the concentration for the development of a human being. So you will see in the phase of yoga, we have different type of alchemists. So basically, when we say alchemist, it has something like those who are in the process of researching. So you will see there are certain people who are called as religious alchemists, or they are called as the Atmavadi. So who he is, the Atmavadi is a person who basically goes into complete spirituality about the soul management. So he's called as Atmavadi. There's another person, a group of people who are completely involved in the philosophical aspects of it. How the world was created, how the soul is created, how the species are created, how the universe is created, what is the connection, which is permanent. All these aspects are spoke, thought, dealt in detail. Whereas they go in the structure of truth. And then you see on the other side, the scientific alchemists who go into the different type of understanding the different metals, the different properties which is in the earth. And from that, where they do various scientific inventions. So it can be computer, it can be aircraft, it can be ships, it can be machines, you name anything of it. who are completely involved in that. And then at one time, also you find another type of people who are completely involved in resource management, in process of increasing the wealth, increasing the resources, bringing the resources together. So you will find different kind of alchemists or different kind of expertise who are in the process of that level. So today we are talking about people who are completely involved as religious alchemists or philosophical alchemists. So here, basically when we try to talk about yoga, what is the basis of yoga? So yoga is a connecting component. It's a it brings together. It is such a protected system. So the basis of yoga is number one, it centralizes the whole energy system. If you take each of us, if you just go through yourself, what type of energies you have, if you just think, you have lots of different type of energies. You have your physical energy, you have your emotional energy, you have your vital energy, you have your intellectual energy, you have your intuitional energy, you have your spiritual energy. And like that, you have various types of energies in your system. And out of this, you will see some energies dominate our lifestyle. In yoga, what is more focused is, number one, is try to understand the existence of the different energy systems. We have a very good knowledge about the physical energy or the bioenergy or the different rhythms which is within us, something like the ultradian rhythm, the circadian rhythms, the infradian rhythms, the different type of rhythms. But first, it tries to understand that there are different energies. So trying to understand that the human body consists of different energies, the existence of energies, the type of different energies, and the way how to enhance, enrich those energies. These are the fundamentals in the practice of yoga. So you will find different techniques. Like, for example, you will have the asanas, the meditational techniques, the relaxational techniques. Different yoga techniques are there. If you see, according to the traditional system of the Siddha, there is altogether 64 types of yoga. And that 64 types of yoga talks or gives method of how to enhance, how to identify, how to enrich, how to preserve, and how to distribute the energies within each of us. That is point number one. The second one of the most important of the energies, of the most important aspect of yoga is, according to the yoga system, it also gives you the basic principles of how to enhance the energies. If you take according to the yoga system, the human system is made out of 96 tattvas. So if you want to know what is tattvas, is basically something like a human being is made out of 96 different type of primordial sattva's. If there is a problem in any one of the sattva, the system starts to collapse, the system starts to cripple, the system is in a position which it can be affected by different entities. Yoga teaches the methodology how to protect and preserve the 96 tattvas or the 96 sattvas in every human being. At the same time, it also focuses on something called, on a day-to-day basis, the purification of the body. Whereas We are aware about the mental body, the astral body, the physical body. So we have the different bodies. So it speaks about how to preserve it. So yoga is basically, if you take, is a system where it focuses on how to strengthen the system, how to preserve the system, and how to purify the system. So here you can use any of the systems. So when you're going into the understanding of the yoga, what are the other important elements which is there in the yoga aspect? So if you want to understand the yoga or deepen into the yoga, you need to have a clear understanding about the soul, about the solitude, about the vibration, about the concentration, about the mind, about the consciousness. So we need to have an understanding of what the soul is. So the soul is basically called as Atma or Atman, a factor that has always been with you. And also, if you see in departed people, that is also surviving after the death also. So what is that factor? And that is the factor, the so-called soul or the Atma is the seat of all forms of energies or the koshas. So as I told you earlier that we have different energies, or when you say as the koshas in the yogic terminology, it calls as the Annamaya kosha, the physical body, the Pranamaya kosha, the vital, Manonmaya kosha, the mind layer, the Vijnanamaya kosha, the analytical, and the final one, which comes as the spiritual one, the Anandamaya kosha. So the soul is the base. The soul is the foundation where all these energies are dependent on and functions on. And also the soul is considered as one of the most subtlest of the subtle and the vastest of the vaster. And the soul is one of the things which is an independent of time and space. Soul does not come under the control of time and space. If you take us in our day-to-day life, we are under the influence of time and space. But soul is not under time and space. So if you see the nature, what is the connection of soul and nature? As long as the soul gets attached to the nature, that soul constantly starts to take birth and birth. At one point of time, when the soul realizes that it has got exhausted from the flourishingness of the nature, and when it starts to get disconnected completely from the nature, the soul attains its final stage, or the soul goes to its place of origin from where it has merged. Solitude is another important aspect in the practice of yoga. So there is two types of individuals, if you take. Those who are in a position to live in the most busiest place and at the same time get themselves completely disconnected. They will be in the worldly affairs. They will be in such a way that they will be connected with everyone, but they know how to disconnect themselves. At the same time, there are certain people who needs a specific environment to get disconnected. And that these two things depends upon the nature of the human being. So here the soul, the solitude are all important aspects. Then the most important other thing is about vibrations. If you take this whole universe is a mass of vibration. Culture, religion, philosophy calls it in different forms. Some call it as a reality, the final truth. They call it as power. Some call it as the primordial energy. Some call it as the kinetic or the static energies. Some call it as the cosmic energy. Some call it as the ninth dimension, call it as the field. Some people, they call it a chi or the shakti, or the... So it can be of any nature, but that vibration, that energy is one of the most important substance in field. Understanding the field of the vibrations within you and around you is one of the most important components. So the vibration within you can get affected by various things. So that science is called as the chronobiology, where earlier stage, the vibrations of your systems or the rhythms of your systems that gets affected. So here, the yoga has its own exclusive manner. Every culture and every religion has its own system of preserving that vibration. And in yoga, it is called as the mantras. So there are specific mantras, the root sound, or gives different methods. So when you chant a certain type of mantras, or when you go on certain type of mantras, what happens is the change which takes place in your system. So the yoga speaks a lot about the different type of mantras which has an impact in the system, and then from there, how to use the root sound word, which is also called as the bija mantra, how to use it for the enhancement and enrichment of your system. It talks in detail. Then it talks about the different concentration method. When it comes into the concentration, whether you are in your spiritual path, or whether you are in your professional path, whether you are in any academic path, it is important for every human being to have the ability to have perfect concentration. When you are able to concentrate on any certain aspect, you become a master of the subject. You become skilled about the subject. Sometimes we become very skilled about it, but when we don't have a deeper concentration, there are lots of errors which take place in the form of errors, mistakes, accidents. It all takes place because we have mastered the skill, but the concentration ability is not given continuous way. Sometimes in the early stage of skill learning, or when we try to professionalize ourselves, once we get used to it, what happens? The concentration ability comes down. When the concentration ability comes down, we start to make errors. Same way, like you will see in relationships, in friendships, in professionalism. So here, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, one of the greatest textbooks in yoga, it's about concentration. Concentration on the objects. The second is it talks about the concentration of yourself, where you focus with yourself. And it is a different type of concentration techniques. It talks about the concentration upon the sense organs. It talks about the concentration upon things knowable, which is seeable. It talks about the concentration about the subject of my I, whereas it's a big self, where it concentrates within the self. So a person concentrates within himself. Why am I born? Why am I born to these parents? Why am I suffering? Questions of that nature. Why am I enjoying this life? Very rarely people do think like that. When there is some sufferings, when they come across certain experience, then they start to explore. They start to focus deep within the self. That is what every religion speaks about it. And then the concentration upon the immediate truth. So you will see people based on their nature, they will be concentrating on the different types of what makes them interesting. At the same time, you can also see it talks about the consciousness. So when you go into the topic of yoga, as I said, the soul, solitude, the concentration, the energies, the consciousness, when you have a depth of knowledge, the practice becomes perfect. So here you will see, when you talk about consciousness, you will have to see something which relates to the different type of consciousness, where the waking consciousness, which we call it as relating to the physical plane, which is called as Jagrat in the terminology, in the yoga terminology. You also have to have an understanding of the dream consciousness, which is called the Swapna, that is the dream consciousness relating to the astral plane of an individual. And then you also see a deep sleep consciousness relating to the mental plane, which is called. Then you see it beyond the mental plane, relating to the buddhi, the intellect, it is the intellect. And then you also go into consciousness, which goes into the superior consciousness, relating to the spiritual plane and being free from all corporal entanglements. So when you go into the consciousness, you try to understand the different physical planes, the astral plane, the mental plane, the buddhic plane, and also the spiritual plane, which is called as the waking of the consciousness, the dream consciousness, the deep sleep consciousness, and also the superior consciousness. So in the yoga terminology, it calls as the Jagrat, Swapna, Turiyam, and the Turiya. So like that, then you try to have an understanding of the mind, the functions of the mind, the power of the mind. When you have all these understandings, then the understanding of the yoga becomes effective. Sometimes when we talk about yoga, it is more popularly understood as the asanas, the yoga posture, which is used for health management. But it is only one aspect in that whole thing. So here, what is most important is the yoga speaks about the different aspects. And now, when it comes into the part of control, it talks about the different diseases which can be caused. So there can be diseases which can be caused by astral causes, due to the impurities and poisons, by the stoppage of the normal internal functions of the body. It can be of the spiritual causes, and also the karmic law. The karmic law is the hereditary diseases. So you can have, a person can have diseases due to various reasons. And the yoga, the Siddha, the Ayurveda speaks in detail about how to handle these diseases, how to handle these conditions, and how we can go in the next level. So here, to heal this whole process, the yoga has one system which is called as the Mani Mantra Avaltam. These are the three basic techniques. So the technique of Mani, that is the divine healing, appealing to the divinity. When the medicines and when the mantra is not responding and not getting cured, to meditate upon the Almighty. So we approach to a divine healing. Then comes the avaldam. Any substance, when you say avaldam, it's a terminology where any substance which has the capacity of curing diseases. As per the Siddha system, Mani Mantra avaldam methods are capable of preventing and curing diseases that are capable of giving longer life to various people. So mantra, as I have told earlier, it's a sacred formula designed to elevate the standards of a man. The world naturally coming from the pure soul, which is hidden in their heart, is called mantram. So how does it comes out? When the chanting of the mantra takes place, the mind and the word and the deeds of the person chanting has to be pure. You have the different types of mantras. You have the pranava mantra, the panchakshara mantra. Like that, you have different mantras where through the help of the mantra, where you can start healing the people. When it comes into the avildam, it's a methodology where through the practices of yoga and through the practices of different herbs. Medicines are prepared out of the muli, which has roots. If you take the grass, herbs or plant or the creepers and the trees, the metals and minerals, things which is available like the iron, copper, silver, gold or lead or mercury or arsenic, or so things which is in a combination or of single aspect where you start to treat. So once the medicines are prepared, you start to treat the people. So if you generally take how the Eastern medical system works, it is called as the Adi Bhautik, due to the fluid and the climate systems. So you can handle a person through the Ayurveda, through the allopathy system, through the yoga system, through the Unani, Siddha, homeopathy. Then you have the various systems, like you have the Chinese medical system. Each country has its own systems of healing. And then you have the Adi Karmic, that is because of the karma of an individual where certain diseases occurs. And the process of healing is called as the spiritual healing. So here, the mantra, the japa, the yoga gets involved in the healing of a person. And then anything which comes into the genetical disorders or the congenital diseases is called as the Adi Devikam, where the divine healing gets involved. So here you can see in the whether it can be of Adi Bhautik or whether it can be the Adi Karmic or whether it can be the Adi Devik, the yoga has the power in healing a human being in the 5 elements, or in the body, or in the mind, or in the soul. And here, when you come into the yoga, yoga basically goes into the 8 systems, which is called as the Ashtanga Yoga. The yamas, the niyamas, things which should be followed, the things which should be adhered in your day-to-day lives, which speaks about that. And every culture, every religion, every spiritual aspect talks about it. Then it talks about the different asanas. When you talk about the asanas, it goes a little bit beyond and speaks about the different warming up practices, which comes as the vyayamas. Then you have the sukshma asanas, the subtle asanas. Then it has the yoga postures. Then he talks about the different pranayama practices, the breath controlling practices. So it works. So basically what does the pranayama do is the basis of the pranayama is that it is able to work in all the 5 elements of the body. So when a person becomes an expert in pranayama, what does the expertism leads into is basically that he or she, when she does a practice, that practice is able to penetrate into the 5 elements of the body. Once it is able to penetrate into the 5 elements of the body, then it will be able to go to the next level of the different energy systems in the body, which is called as the chakras. So pranayama speaks in detail or explains the different methodologies, how it can have an impact in the physical dimension, in the subtle dimensions or the astral dimensions, and also the deeper dimensions. It also explains about the pratyahara or the focus or the concentration techniques, defocusing systems, sense withdrawal systems. It also talks about the different higher concentration methods. So if you take in each of the systems, you will have vast amount of knowledge systems and vast amount of techniques which explains about the different higher concentration techniques. And then it goes into the different meditational practices, and then it goes into the realization, the explanation of realization and all those things. So here you will see basically in the Eastern medical systems, when it comes into the yoga, this Ashtanga Yoga is an interconnected part. It is not that you try to do at everything at one different stage. It is all interconnected where you do it simultaneously. When you're able to do it simultaneously, it has a greater impact in an individual. I think this will give you a basic understanding of how the yoga system has an impact in this thing. So same way you will see in the yoga system, it also has something called different techniques. Out of the different techniques, you have something which is called as a yoga nidra, the way how you sleep, the how you handle. So the yoga gives you every method in every aspects, from the birth to the death and even after the death. So when an individual is alive, how the soul has to be handled, it gives you technique. How the mind has to be managed, how the emotions has to be managed, and how the physical body has to be managed. Even when you are sleeping, it talks about techniques, how to sleep properly. So when the yoga talks, when a person is going into sleep, how the withdrawal takes place in the senses. So it's first the smell, followed by the taste, then by the visual capacity, the touch, the hearing. So this is the order of how the senses takes place, how the sense withdrawal. And whenever you do a meditational practice, or whenever you do a yoga nidra, the deep relaxation practice, it talks about the different systems of how it has the impact. So for example, you will see, if you take a brain mapping here, you will see the different numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, where each of these, when you go into the brain mapping, you will see like the toes, the ankle, the knee, the hip, the trunk, the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist. So every part of the body, when you start to think, you have the capacity, you have the power to enrich it, to make it stronger in your system. So if you find there is some problem in your index finger, or you find there is some problem in your neck region, or you feel that there is some problem in your tongue region, then what happens is you start working about the difference. So when you start to think, when you start to work upon it, which is called as the brain mapping, the body has the capacity to work upon it. So here we just try to understand the whole picture of what yoga is. So yoga is not just about few asanas, twisting the body. Yes, when you go into the deep practice of asanas, you'll be able to twist the body as how you can, based on your capacity. But yoga is basically a methodology, a system, a philosophy, a medical approach for a total personality. So I would like, if there is any questions from your part regarding what we have discussed, I'd be happy to answer questions if I know the answers.
Yeah, we'll see. Currently, there are no questions. If you have any questions, just type into the question box. What we have heard is like this for most of the people, this is quite new, so they should be wondering what to ask actually. So we'll go forward, and if there's anything else, I'll interrupt you and ask you.
You feel that you want me to give a small summary of it?
Yeah, please, we can do that.
So basically, if you just want to understand the whole picture of what we are discussing, we are just discussing about ourselves. What and how we are made up of. So the human being, is it just a collections of bones and ligaments and tissues and skin or blood? Or is it there is something more pure and more subtle? The yoga speaks and explains there are more subtlest aspects. The yoga talks about the most potentiality within ourselves. It talks about the different energies within an individual. And having an energy and how to use it is another one of the most important things. So it talks about identification of energy, preservation of energy, utility of energy, and type of energy. And it also talks about transferring the energy. So if a person, when he has a certain amount of wealth, he has the capacity to transfer the wealth. Same way, in yoga also, yoga teaches and explains method. If one person has excessive energy, how that energy can be transmitted or to transfer to another person. So here, we are talking about the complete energy systems, energies which a man is made out of. Why we have to have the understanding of the energies is because that man also, due to various reasons, due to the modern technology, due to the various aspects of people, various things, he needs to get himself protected. So we take lot of measurement steps. For example, you take lot of steps to protect your house. You take lot of steps to protect your wealth. You take a lot of steps to protect your vehicles. You name anything, we have a protection expert. Even now you will know that there are various educational systems also to protect. So here, what we are talking about, yoga talks about how to protect the inherent nature of yourself. Because if our human self is well protected, whatever the resources which is within us and around us will be able to enjoy the life. So the seekingness, as I said in the beginning, the seekingness is an inherent quality. Every one of us will seek something. So some people may seek spirituality, some people may seek wealth, some can seek knowledge, some can seek into exploring. So you will see that every individual's nature, the inherent characteristics is seeking. Yoga talks about to identify what is your nature and what is the best line of seeking which you should do for the betterment of yourself. When it talks into that process, it talks about the protection. When it talks about the protection, it talks about the different systems, how your body can get affected. Sometimes your soul can get affected. Your emotions can get affected because as we are human beings, our senses can have an impact. Sometimes a simple text message can disturb an individual. The body language can make a person individual. Sometimes a forgetfulness. Sometimes we forget. It can be the birthday or the marriage day, or sometimes we forget to wish a person's success. All these small things to the biggest thing gets accumulated in a human being. And when these emotions gets accumulated directly and indirectly, what happens? The system starts to get eroded. So this process of eroding at one point of time makes a person collapse, emotionally collapse. How do we know that we are in the process of collapsing? Is basically when we know that we are getting irritated, then what is an indication that your system needs to be taken care of? So yoga gives you the different methodologies. Depending on your person, the system of yoga will differ. All do not need asanas. For some people, they need only the enhancement of spiritualism. So you go into the analyzation, you go into the concentration technique of analyzing yourself. Some people are having a habit of seeking the physical body to make the physical body stronger, beautiful, vibrant, flexible. Then you need to go into the different asanas. There are some people who work with the energies, they love energies. Then they go with the different techniques of the Kundalini Yoga. They go into the different type of meditational techniques. Same way, you will see like that, you will see different people's approach differs. Based on that only, in the yoga system, you have the fundamentally 4 systems of yoga, which is explained, which comes as the Raja Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, the Karma Yoga. All these things are explained, the Jnana Yoga. But when you go in detail, you will find 64 different types of yogas are being explained for the betterment of every human being. So here, yoga is one of the greatest codified methodology which gives us a wonderful knowledge, a wonderful path for a person who seeks based on his nature. Any questions?
Questions. We have a couple of questions actually. So I'm going to turn on the mic of Saranya. You can speak to Vyasa right now.
Hi Anna, how are you?
How are you, Saranya?
I'm doing good. Greetings from the Alps. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'll ask you 3 questions very quickly. You touched on the topic of energy today, right, Anna, about how energy is converted. I remember reading an article about how everything from the atomic level to the cosmic level in this universe is geometrically perfect in terms of energy because of the triangle is a more stable form. And also, the science-based notion about the law of conservation of energy, where energy is always transferred. Is that the basis for the soul as well? The energy of the soul, you know, when you go through the death and what you explained, is that what founds the basis of reincarnation and cycle of life, in your opinion?
Will you be asking all 3 questions, or shall I just answer each of the questions and
you answer each of them, Anna, because the other 2 are very small. Just this.
Yeah, so basically, if you take the question is the universe energy pattern is completely a different thing. So as I explained to you, when it comes to the soul is not at all made up of whatever the energies what we are talking about. That is the reason. Once it comes under the atoms, and whenever it comes into the different forms of nuclear systems and the different particles of it, then those energies will always come under the influence of time and space. But the soul is not like that. Okay. Soul is not made up of energy, which is of what is created in the universe. Soul is made up of completely of a different entity, which has nothing to do with the energy field of what we talk in physics or in occult chemistry of that line. That is the reasons why even still that they are not able to find the formula of the soul. But still the science is trying to see how the soul is made up of.
Yes.
Are you clear?
Yes, absolutely. And Anna, you also mentioned there was a book, Yoga Sutra, on concentration.
Patanjali Yoga Sutra.
Patanjali, okay. And
so you will find what was the question?
That was the second question. I wanted to know the book.
Basically, if you want to talk, when you want to seek about concentration, you will have different books in different, like even in Buddhism, you have different books which has explained. You will have some books in Tamil. You will have, for example, it's a nice textbook called Brihadaranya Upanishads, which I think you can purchase it at the Ramakrishna Mission or anywhere, which talks about the complete concentration techniques. Then you have the different techniques of the Tirumantram, you know, which is one of the best books which gives you the total system of knowledge system. Because that is one of the textbooks, if you take like the Tirumantram, which is been written by Tirumular, is about 3,000 verses where you will find all the knowledge system in one textbook. If you take in Sanskrit, what happens even in Vedas and everything, that all the knowledge system has to be approached for different textbooks due to various reasons. But in the Tirumantram is one of the textbooks which all the knowledge system, whether you like the questions which you are asking about what is soul made out of, you go into the text, it will say what is soul made out of, what is how is the concept of God, so how the atom is made out of. So it can be the knowledge of the physicality, it can be knowledge of the subtlety, it can be made of anything you want to have an understanding about the spirituality. One of the best books which you will find is the Tirumantram, where it gives you a depth of knowledge. What is your next question, please?
Final question is, in order to be chanting and mantras, Anna, you have to be pure, which I'm assuming abstaining from being a carnivore and all of that. And in relation to that, when we chant, we say Om Namah Shivaya, but when we single-handedly say Om, it's better to say this A-U-M, Aum, right?
The thing is, for the purpose of understanding, I think you have put two questions into it.
Yes.
So basically, the aspect is, if you take your whole body, if an individual's body, your individual body is made up of 52 subtle sound systems. That's all. Sound system, which is called as the Bija sound. So here what happens is basically when you go on chanting in a constant way, it all depends for why you are chanting. Sometimes there will be certain people who are chanting for the purpose of education. Some people will be chanting for the purpose of disease elevation. There will be some people who will be chanting for the purpose of wealth management. You know, like they need a lot of wealth, so the purpose. So it all depends on why they are chanting. So based on the chantings, and in case if a person is chanting for the purpose of spirituality, then it is said that you will have to maintain certain principles, certain code of conduct, so that it becomes easier. For example, I think you come from a medical background. Like if you are going into a surgery, like, you know, you will not advise a person to have a full meal and come, you know, because sometimes you will have to starve also. There's a certain reason. Sometimes you will know in certain systems, like, you know, if it is a full moon, generally they avoid surgery because the bleeding can exceed. So like that, so there are certain protocols which is used in every system. Same way, depending on the nature of your requirement, whether to be a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, it depends. Number one. What was the other question from that?
Om versus Aumana. A-U-M versus O-M.
Yeah, so because for us, we had to explain this word, Om, to the world. Basically, the word Om is a combination of three basic syllables, which is called as Akara, Ukara, and Makara. A, U, So because we don't have, when we started to explain that in English, then we made it as A-U-M. But basically the word is A, Akara, the first sound which starts from the root of the Mooladhara. So it comes as A. So it is Akaram, Ukaram, and Makaram. So these three are the fundamental sounds in that 52 syllabi. So when you go on telling it, so when you start, because that is considered as the most powerful mantra, or one of the most powerful sound system. So when you start chanting that, that becomes very effective. That is, the resonance power for the Om is very high comparing to the other sound systems. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you, Mr. Sanjaya. Thanks
Thank you
a
for
lot.
joining. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
you're
Anna.
welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, we have another two questions. One is from Marlon. He's asking, can yoga be practiced anywhere, or do you need a certain setup to make it more effective?
So yoga is a lifestyle. So now while you are listening to me also, you are doing a yoga by concentrating on what I am talking. And I am talking to you and my focus has to be there. So I am also doing a yoga, and Sanjay also coordinating things perfectly. So he's also doing yoga. So yoga means the complete focus of your senses towards your object, what you are doing. So when you talk about yoga, you are doing yoga every time. And when you start to do your work perfectly, that is yoga. But when you're going to talk about the aspect of yoga, then sometimes you may need certain requirements, a clean air, you know, basic stuff like that. And then a place which is very comfortable where there is a nice ventilation. And generally after food, we try to avoid 3.5 hours to 4 hours, because the nature of the food, what you take, it needs to get digested. So there is a period where you will have to take upon it. So if you are doing an asana or pranayama, then there are certain things to ensure the body absorption capacity is there. But when you're going into a meditation, or when you're going into yoga nidra or any other aspect, you can do it at any time. There is no specific time. Whenever your mind is there, it all depends on your mood. If your mind says, yes, I'm in a position to sit and meditate, then you choose the time and then you start meditating.
Okay, I think you have a sufficient answer, Marlon. And there's another question asking how about your classes and about your sessions. So could you explain a bit about those two?
The sessions of conduct, yeah. Basically, I'm associated with the Ashtanga Yoga Mandir and also to the Indian Cultural Center. The Ashtanga Yoga Mandir is based in Bambalapitiya number 3 Ridgeway Place. This is one of the centers which is having a very long history, which was started in 1953. A very brief history is one of the greatest saints in the yoga was His Holiness Swami Shivananda Sachidananda Saraswati Maharaj. He had 18 disciples who have been taking this yoga to the different parts of the world. And his first lady disciple or the sannyasi was from Sri Lanka. Her name was Holiness Sachidananda Saraswati Mataji. So she established it in Sri Lanka in 1953. And her disciple and successor was my mother, who was a barrister by profession, where she took up these institutions and also she was carrying on. Then after that, now we have a team of instructors who are now managing the center. So the center is open all 7 days. This is one of the centers which is basically a therapeutic center where we handle all the ailment-based issues. And then we have our general yoga classes, we have our therapy course, we have our instructor course. Then we have all the spiritual practices. There are specific people who are expert in those regions. They do their spiritual practices. So it's a center which is open all 7 days and which you can just reach us through. The website is there, www.yoga.lk, and the address is number 3 Ridgeway Place, Colombo 4. So you can just reach us anytime and we'll be happy to give you information.
Okay, yes, maybe you can tell them your phone number.
It is plus 94 777 274 859. I repeat it again, plus 94 777 274 859.
Okay, it's up there in the chat. You can just copy it from there. So if there aren't any questions, I think we can wrap it up. Hope you got unique knowledge on what yoga is and how it affects your life, and basically finding out that whenever you focus, you're actually doing a version of yoga yourself. So given all that, I would like to thank Vyasah for dedicating his time for us and sharing all this knowledge with us. And of course, the replay will be available in a few days. So if you have subscribed to the webinar, we will obviously email you the link to the recording, and it will be available in our website and in our Facebook page as well, Elearning.lk. So hope to see you again next time on another webinar. It can be either yoga or meditation, or it can be some other subjects. Just stay on our page, subscribe to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Elearning.lk, and hope to see you next time. And
thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sanjay, and all those who have joined for this session today. On behalf of Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, take care.